What is up and welcome back. We are your Colorado real estate family, and today what we're going to be doing is bringing you on a map tour of the Denver metro area, covering 5 things that we feel like you must know when becoming familiar with the Denver metro.
All right, let's go.
If this is your first time watching, Pete and Chelsea, Sweeney here, and what we like to do on this channel is expose you everything about the Denver metro area and all of its surrounding cities. So if you are planning Colorado, your next home, give us a call or text that phone number right below. Right below right there, we have the top relocation team when helping out with real estate needs in Colorado.
No worries if you're not ready to call. Just hit that subscribe button, give us a thumbs up, and hit that notification bell so you're notified every single time that we put out a new video.
So the first thing that we're going to cover is what is the Denver metro when we are talking about this map right now. If you Google it, I feel like there's a terminology. They pretty much use it as different counties. And just because I don't have that memory where I can remember all these different counties, you're looking at Denver, Arapahoe, Jefferson, Adams, Douglas, Broomfield, Elbert, Park, Clear Creek, and Gilpin.
A lot.
I prefer our local kind of, I guess, unspoken thing of what the Denver metro is. And it's pretty much 470 that goes all the way around. You can see this boundary right here. That's what we would consider pretty much the Denver metro. I know that like there's some people who live over here in Golden who will say, yeah, we're part of the Denver metro. No, we're not. Same with Castle Rock. If you went down here, Castle Rock would be down there. Some say that they are part of the Denver metro. Some say they aren't. But I'd say this is pretty much like your unspoken area right here. Is if you follow this circle right here, all the cities within 470.
That also kind of takes us into when Peter and I are talking about like North Denver Metro or South Denver Metro, we wanted to give you kind of a map view of what we're talking about. So we typically use, I guess if you were to kind of build a circle around Denver itself, we kind of use this I-70 highway north, so Arvada, Westminster, Broomfield, Erie, Thornton, North Glen, all of that. So this up here is what we would say is our North Denver Metro, right?
Yep.
Our South Denver Metro is going to be, again, south of Denver, which is kind of divided by where I-25 curves around. So that is this is I-25. So when it curves around Denver right here, we start to kind of take everything from this 285 down, and we call that like our South Denver cities. So again, this is not, you know, by the book. If you were to look this up, this is why these map tours are so exciting, because we get to kind of give you like the local lingo that you may or may not be able to just, you know, type in Google and find out. So everything down here, so Littleton, Lakewood, Inglewood, Castle Rock, Parker, Centennial, those are all the cities that we talk about when we're talking about South Denver. Again, everything lateral we'll kind of use like, you know, Lakewood kind of falls into that west, Golden kind of falls into that west, and then over on the east side, that's going to be like Aurora. So that's kind of how we divvy things up. So when you have been watching our videos, or maybe it's the first time you've been here, that when we're talking about that is strictly just us making up what we think the boundaries are, so that you guys can get a better idea of what part of town that you are looking in. Yeah, guys, I mean, here's where it's at. We live in an age of information, right? Where you could Google pretty much anything you want. But when you're on the ground, when your boots on the ground here in Colorado, this is kind of what we're talking about. This is what we really want to expose you to, something that you cannot Google, some inside information from the locals and natives that do live here. So stick around till the very end. This is a good segue, because we are going to give you kind of like 5 terminology that you have to know if you're going to be living in or around Denver. So you're going to want to stick around to the end, because you can't move to Denver and not know these terms.
The second thing that we're going to be covering is pretty much your main means of transportation when going in and around the Denver metro area. Your 2 main veins are going to be pretty much I-25, which goes north and south, and then I-70, which goes east and west. Those are your 2 main veins. And you have a few highways that kind of sub off of those. So it's like, you know, 36 is pretty much our Boulder dedicated highway that goes all the way up to Boulder from I-25. You have 270 over here, which seems like it's always backed up. You have 225, which is I kind of consider like the Aurora highway. You got 6 out here. That one goes straight out into Lakewood, Littleton area, kind of all the way into Golden. And so those are the main highways that you really need to think about. And of course, we already did mention 470, but something that you do need to know is when you are on the east side of I-25 going all the way around this way, all the way down to where it meets like right here in Lone Tree, this is going to be your toll, right? All this area right here. When you get on the west side of I-25 with 470, that is when it's going to be your free highway. So something to know. That way, if you're like trying to go on the highway, like, crap, I didn't realize this was a toll, because the tolls can get pretty pricey when traveling on 470 on this side.
And then real quick, just because we have talked about this in other videos, you'll notice our big circle doesn't actually fill in over here. This is kind of that West Arvada area. This is something that people have talked about a lot. They want to close this whole circle. There's been a lot of pushback when it comes to this side of town. A lot of people don't want a major highway between them and the foothills. So I don't know if it is coming or not, but it's something worth talking about because you'll see that the big pie is over in Arvada, and there's a reason for that, but there are talks about that filling in. Okay, the second thing that you need to know about these highways is the traffic. Now, most people, especially our clients coming from larger cities, would be like, Chelsea, you don't know traffic. I get that. However, I do know where our traffic lives, so I'm going to talk about it today.
Well, and then a quick note too is I made sure to take this shot in the morning so it can help Chelsea out to see where the traffic patterns is. But yeah, she'll dive in a little bit deeper and show you where they're at.
So the big one, I'm going to start from north and I'm going to go down south. So if you are traveling from North Denver Metro, like we talked about, so we're coming down I-25. I-25 is your main vessel coming down to downtown Denver or anything kind of south of that area. If you hit 84th along that is where for some reason, I can kind of give you some examples, but there are a lot of offshoots after that. You're going to be able to cut over to 270, which is here, or you're going to be able to go down straight into Denver. Those areas right there, people cannot figure that out. It is always backed up. If you are going south, it starts at 84th. If you're going north, it ends at 84th, and then it's free after that. So just know 84th is kind of like if you sit through that, you're going to be okay. Also, people merging to go over to I-70 East, typically if they're coming from north, will shortcut it over to and use 270. So 270 will cut over and then land kind of closer to Commerce City. This area right here, just prepare to put on a good audiobook. For some reason or another, people cannot figure it out, and 270 is going to be backed up. Okay, the other thing is when you're going around Denver, we get some good movement around here, which is kind of your Spear area or in between high or low high and kind of that Denver area. You're going to see it start speeding up. Then you turn around the little corner that starts to go towards the tech center, which is right here. And that is where everything starts to back up. So this is kind of where Highway 6 is. It's going to get really, really backed up between there and like slightly after, pretty much to the tech center. So expect that being your major traffic. So even if you guys are down south and you're like, oh, I'm so close to the tech center, if you're going to be having to drive this every day to get there, that's something you're going to want to talk about. Or say you're over here and you're like, oh, I have 270 that can shortcut me across. Not necessarily if that's going to be one of the backed up areas. So if you do know those things, I think it'll make it a lot easier for you to travel around town or have alternate routes in case there's like, an accident or something.
So another quick note too is on this traveling. So when you're coming home from work, say you're coming from kind of like the Aurora Hospital system over there, was the Anschutz Hospital system, is a lot of people will use this 270 right here. And it has another rule, kind of like we talked about with 84th, where it goes all the way till Highway 85. It's super backed up, and then after 85 it just like clears up. You're like, what the hell is all this traffic for? So yeah, this like free shoot where you just like go and no traffic, and then as soon as it meets back up with I-25, you hit that traffic again all the way up to 84. So it's kind of weird. It's just there's certain spots that people really like to slow down, and also what we noticed too is like 84th. I see that's a good, but there's some days where it will go all the way up to 104th. And so it's like, it just depends on what day it is, how much traffic there actually is. Sometimes that will go up to 104th and you got to take I-25 going through that traffic up to 104 sometimes.
One more thing that I have to mention that you will expect to back up if you are coming, so say you're coming from west and you're going I-25 north, you're going to I-25 north. You're going to kind of shortcut up I-76, which is right here. So shortcut 270, shortcut I-76. Okay. When you're coming on and you're getting onto the I-25, that's another place that you are going to be backed up. You could probably walk the on-ramp faster than you can drive. Don't worry, once you actually merge onto I-25, well, then you'll at least start moving a little bit until you get to 84th. So again, these highways, even though they look like shortcuts, might not always be, but they are short and they usually clear up right after.
I just wonder, are you guys like taking notes right now? Because this is a lot of information to throw at you. You're like, hold on, okay, I gotta avoid this, I gotta go here.
I also feel like I'm slightly like the traffic lady.
Yep.
Fine. I just want you to know how to get in and around our city so you don't get annoyed by some of the traffic patterns.
All right, the third thing that we're going to cover on this map right here is pretty much the characteristics of these different areas, because many times when we're talking in our videos, we talk about, if you want to be, by the mountains or farmland or something like that. We don't really dig in too much, so let's go and dig in on the map and figure out what those areas are, where they're at.
So one of the things that we have to debunk first is that people think when they're moving to Colorado, it's going to be all mountains everywhere. It's going to be all snow everywhere. And that's what they're expecting. When you come out of the Denver International Airport and you're driving, say you've rented a car or maybe you're taking an Uber, you're like, where are the mountains? So when we are talking about the areas where you can get more land, or those outskirts cities that, you know, have more lots that are not really included in the Denver metro, we're typically talking about this area right here that's going to include, you know, Brighton, Loch Bowie, even Firestone, Frederick, and what is it, Dacono? Like, where's the other one? Dacono. That kind of outskirt area is going to be less dense. It's going to feel kind of more, you know, farmland.
Yeah, farmland.
And it almost feels kind of out in the boonies. Like when we talk about being in the boonies, but it's really not that far because we do have it, you know, Highway 76. So that's the area that we talk about. Now, if we're talking about the foothills, which we often talk about, we're going to be talking about on the west side of town, kind of from Boulder. We're going to go pretty much down 93, pass through the west side of Arvada, and then it ends, 93 ends over in Golden, and then starts back up at 470, covering kind of Lakewood, Littleton, and areas like that. Those are the cities we're talking about when we talk about the foothill cities, that people, they're like, hey, we want to be close to the mountains, we want the foothills in our backyard, like that. Those are the areas we're talking about. There's also, you know, obviously the tech center.
Yeah, so the tech center is pretty much, I'd say, so Glendale, as soon as I-25 turns the corner right here and goes down, hopefully you can see what I'm pointing. I'll make sure that I can talk to you so you can hear me. So you turn right here, that's when you pretty much enter the tech center, and it goes all the way down. I'd say it pretty much ends when you kind of get to 470 right here. And then you have, you know, your south like Lone Tree kind of area, and it's a little bit different. But when we are talking about the tech center, it's pretty much right around this Greenwood Village, Centennial area, right off of I-25.
Those are the three things that you guys typically ask us when kind of looking around the Denver area. Is like, where are we actually trying to get close to? Are we trying to get close to the tech center? Are we trying to get close to the city, but not so close that we don't have like land and space? Or we want to be like foothills in our backyard? So we try to give you a little bit of kind of like the terrain, more to say, of what Denver looks like, because you can't tell on a flat map. Okay, the fourth thing we're going to be covering is schools. And can we just talk about how beautiful this map is? Peter's going to take us through it, but I just love when maps are color-coded.
All right, so if you're probably thinking, it's like, all right, where the heck is this in comparison to the map that we were just talking about? You can kind of see some slight line up here. That's your north side of 470 right there, going all the way around. And so pretty much talking about this area right here, because Douglas County goes all the way down into like Castle Rock, further south down here. So your biggest counties obviously are going to be Douglas County right here. You got Jefferson County, which has, you know, like Arvada, Littleton, Lakewood, those areas. Douglas has Castle Rock, Highlands Ranch, Parker, those cities. Boulder Valley obviously is Boulder. You got Boulder, Longmont, parts of Broomfield as well too. Brighton 27J, you got parts of Thornton in there. You got Henderson, Brighton, parts I think of Commerce City in there as well too. Those are going to be our largest ones that we're going to be really talking about. But we are going to cover a few though that we always mention that are kind of like top notch according to niche.com.
All right, one of the biggest questions you guys always ask us if you're moving here with kiddos is, what are the best, we talked about the districts, but what are the best districts when it comes to grading? So we do use niche.com, and again, I'll kind of tell you a little bit, because right now I'm going to show you district grading, but I do have something else to say about that. If you want to know like just the basics of the district grading, this is it. So your A school or A districts are going to be that Jefferson County, which was that big one on the west side of town. Boulder obviously is an A. Longmont, St. Vrain Valley, that's going to be an A. And then the Cherry Creek and Littleton. So that is no surprise that those are the top school districts in Colorado, and typically they're on the west side of town, I will say. However, I want to challenge you that when you are looking at school districts, which is something that we cover together on our first phone call typically, is if you are that interested in schools, I strongly encourage and challenge you to click on the school district itself. You're going to go on the left-hand side, you're going to hit map, and then zoom into the district, because I think it's a little deceiving when you're looking online as to saying like, okay, well, say for instance, I know that Aurora has a C grade. If you were to click on the Aurora district and zoom in, there are some good and better graded schools within the entire district that, you know, there are some schools that will pull it down as an average, and then some that will, you know, be pulling it up. So I encourage you through, there are other school districts that have good options, and you might miss them if only looking at the top graded districts instead of zooming into the district and looking at some of the best schools in your city. All right, if you stuck around this long, we're going to give you the lingo of Denver, because a lot of people when they move into Denver, they're like, what in the world? Like, I'm meeting somewhere in this.
What are you talking about? What area is this?
Yeah, and it doesn't tell you on the map. Sometimes you can figure it out, honestly, but sometimes you can't. So we're going to talk about the 5 words that you need to know, because even if you're living outside of Denver, people might be like, hey, let's go meet at blah, blah, blah. We're going to talk about this now.
All right, so probably the most important ones that you are going to hear, I guess the most used ones that you're going to hear is pretty much this lower highland. We call that low high.
Low high.
And then even when you go up a little bit, even though it's not marked, it's called high low. And then back here, I'm probably going to have to scoot back a little bit. Over here, this is the highlands. And so those are probably the three ones that you're mainly going to hear because that's the majority of your coffee shops and restaurants that people are meeting at are going to go visit over there. So it's kind of away from the hecticness of like downtown Denver.
Yeah, if you're coming from up north, you can just actually take off the highway. You don't even have to go down into Denver. Now, if you want to go right off of Denver on the left-hand side, you're going to hit Riverfront, which is nice now because it has a bridge, and then there's this 1 to 2 strips of restaurants, and kind of it's really chic. There's some boutiques down there, so it's becoming really popular, especially if you're walking from downtown. So Riverfront is here. Union Station obviously is going to be a big one, but the other one is Rhino. So Rhino is another one. You're like, oh, hey, we're gonna meet at Rhino for lunch. Like, what? We're going to Rhino? Like,
yeah, so pretty much it just stands for River North is what it is.
River North. So if you're looking and people are like, hey, you want to go hit somewhere in Rhino or Low High or High Low, like now you're gonna know what that looks like. The other one is people will be like, hey, I live over by City Park, or like that's another really big descriptor people will use, and people are like, okay, where's City Park? People expect that to be kind of in the heart of Denver, when really, I'm gonna move over, it's over here. And City Park is a really active place. Like if you live by City Park, it's typically kind of your more active Denver folk that want to be a little outside of the city. And so there's a lot of like runs and dog friendly. Like
you've got the zoo over there, you've got the museum over there, you've got a golf course over there, and you're always seeing people run.
Yeah, and that's kind of, it feels like it's outside of Denver, but it's really not. It's just kind of an extension, and people talk about City Park all the time. Okay, we've given you the inside scoop of some 5 terminology that you need to know if you decide to move here, no matter where you live in the Denver or Denver Metro. If you like this video, will you hit that subscribe button, give us a thumbs up, and hit that notification bell so you get notified every single time we put out a new video.
And of course, guys, if you are looking at purchasing real estate in the beautiful state of Colorado, give us a call or text that phone number right below. Right below it there. We always answer. It doesn't matter day or time. Till next time, we love you. Bye.
Bye. That was good, but you said metro area. You like had a hiccup or something, or like your spit got in the way, or your tongue got in the way. Metro area.
All along those lines. So why don't you make sure you follow along? No.
Where are you going?
I don't know.
Just go for it.
If you plan on calling this beautiful state your home. So if that's no.